I met Ryan when I was just 23 years old. I was an ambitious woman with dreams of building a company that would change lives. And he was a charming, funny guy who worked as a local sales rep. We met at a networking event, of all places, where I had been pitching my startup idea to anyone who would listen. He was the only one who truly paid attention. Not to the pitch, but to me. At the time, I had nothing but an idea, a few notes in a sketchbook, and an old laptop that overheated if I opened more than 2 tabs. Ryan, on the other hand, was stable. He had a job, a car, and a decent apartment. He offered me comfort in a world where I was constantly told I was dreaming too big. We got married 2 years later. Back then, I was still building my tech startup, an AI-based customer support platform. Ryan supported me initially. He let me use a small bonus to buy my first set of proper equipment. He even cooked when I worked late into the night. For that, I was always grateful. But things began to shift after I got funding. Once the first investor came in and the checks started to arrive, Ryan's tone changed. He went from being supportive to resentful. "You're never home," he would say. "This startup is more important to you than I am. You act like I'm just some employee now." It didn't help that he didn't want to be involved in the business. I offered him a role, a legit title, salary, benefits, and equity. He refused every time, saying he didn't want to work under me. Eventually, the cracks became impossible to ignore. He stopped asking about my work, stopped cheering for my wins. Instead, he became passive-aggressive. He started making friends with women at the gym and staying out late. And when I confronted him, he accused me of neglecting him and said I had changed. One night, I came home to an empty closet. Ryan had moved out. No warning. Just a note on the counter that read, "I'm done living in your shadow. I want a divorce. Don't worry, I won't come for your company. You can keep your little empire." I should have been devastated, but mostly I felt relief. A year later, the divorce was finalized. Ryan waived any rights to the company in writing. I even gave him a generous lump sum out of courtesy, $100,000. Fast forward 8 years. My little empire had become a $500 million business. We had contracts with Fortune 500 companies, a team of over 300, and we were in talks for a possible acquisition. Life was good. I had remarried briefly, but it didn't last. I was focused on my business and honestly happier than I'd ever been. Then, one sunny Thursday morning, while I was having coffee in the conference room with my COO, the receptionist called me. "There's a woman here. She says she's your ex-husband's wife. She's demanding to see you. She won't leave." I froze. My ex-husband's wife? Confused but curious, I told security to escort her up, mostly because I wanted to see what this was about. A few minutes later, a tall woman in designer sunglasses walked in like she owned the place. She looked me up and down, then said, "Hi, I'm Dana, Ryan's wife. We're here for what's rightfully his. Our share of your company." I blinked, wondering if I had misheard her. "Our share?" I asked, trying to stay calm. She smiled. "Yes, we've consulted lawyers. Since Ryan supported you while you were building this company, he's entitled to half. And as his wife, I have a legal stake now, too." I nearly laughed, but I didn't, because I knew better than to underestimate greedy people. "You're mistaken," I said. "Ryan signed a postnuptial agreement, and in our divorce papers, he legally gave up all rights to the company. You have no claim." Dana rolled her eyes. "That paperwork won't matter once we go public with how you built your fortune. If you don't give us a fair settlement, we'll sue. The press will eat up your Cinderella story turned scandal." And just like that, it wasn't about money, it was about revenge. They thought I'd built an empire without securing my foundations. They thought the threat of public embarrassment would scare me. They were wrong. But I knew I had to play it smart. So I smiled politely and said, "If it's a legal matter, I'll let my legal team respond." I called my lawyers the second she left, because if Ryan and his gold-digging wife wanted a war, they were about to see what it looked like when a woman who built her own empire from scratch decided to burn liars to the ground. After Dana's dramatic entrance into my office, the building buzzed with gossip. My team didn't know exactly who she was, but they knew she had come with a storm and left behind one too. I stayed calm on the outside, but inside, I was furious. Ryan, the same man who once told me he didn't want anything to do with my business, was now coming for half of it, with his new wife leading the charge. I wasn't just insulted, I was disgusted. So, the first thing I did was pull up every single piece of documentation from our divorce. I had kept digital and hard copies of everything. The postnuptial agreement, signed 2 years into our marriage, which clearly stated that the business was solely mine. The divorce settlement, where Ryan waived all future claims and accepted a lump sum payout in return. The email exchanges, where Ryan personally wrote, "I don't want a penny from your company. Keep it. I'm not interested in being a part of your world." My lawyers reviewed everything and smiled. This won't hold up for them, but they may still file just to drag you through the mud. My lead attorney, Rachel, warned. "Let them," I replied. "I've got more than legal documents. I've got truth." 2 weeks later, a thick manila envelope arrived at my office. It was official. Ryan and Dana were suing me for $150 million, claiming Ryan had contributed emotionally, financially, and logistically to the company in its early days. The lawsuit was nonsense. Ryan had never written a line of code. He never sat in on a single investor meeting. He didn't even know what the software did. But here's what they were banking on, a settlement. They thought I'd pay them off to avoid the mess. That's where they really underestimated me. I didn't build a $500 million company by backing down when threatened. And this wasn't just about business. It was about pride, about principle. So I responded publicly. My PR team released a carefully worded statement. Ms. Blake holds full legal ownership of her company, which she built independently. Any claims otherwise are completely false and will be defended vigorously in court. The next day, headlines spread across business blogs. Tech CEO sued by ex-husband over $500 million fortune. From supportive spouse to bitter ex, can he win? Gold digger or legal claim? New wife joins the fight. My phone blew up with calls from reporters, lawyers offering to help, and, interestingly, investors who reassured me they stood behind me. Ryan and Dana had hoped to weaken me. Instead, they were only sharpening my focus. We went to court 3 months later. Day 1, opening statements. Their lawyer painted a picture of a poor, selfless man who gave everything to support his wife's dreams, only to be tossed aside when she made it big. I nearly snorted. Ryan had left me, not the other way around. When it was our turn, Rachel stood up and presented cold facts. Dates, documents, emails, contracts, all signed, all binding. She even played a video deposition of Ryan from the divorce proceedings where he said, "I don't want anything from her company. I'm not interested in tech or startups." Boom. Dana was in the courtroom that day, dressed like a magazine ad. She looked confident until the video played. Then her face tightened. She whispered something to Ryan, and he looked like he wanted to disappear. Day 3, witness testimonies. I brought in people who had been with me since the beginning. My first developer, my first investor, even my landlord who used to let me pay rent late in the early days. Each one testified to the same thing. Ryan was never at the office. Ryan didn't contribute anything to the business. Ryan actively resented the business. But the killer moment came when my assistant from back then, Lisa, took the stand. She had kept a diary. And in that diary, she had written about a conversation she overheard between Ryan and a friend where he said, "If she makes it big, maybe I'll just fake like I was a part of it and cash out." The judge allowed it into evidence. Dana's face turned red. Ryan looked like he was about to cry. Week 2, settlement offer. Their lawyer approached mine privately with an offer. "If your client is willing to give $5 million, we'll drop everything." I laughed when Rachel told me. "Not a dollar," I said. "Let them burn through every cent of their savings. I want the court to humiliate them." So we declined, and that's when Dana got sloppy. She tried to go to the press directly. She gave a bitter interview claiming I stole everything from Ryan, that I was manipulative and cruel, and that Ryan had been the brains behind the company. Big mistake. because she didn't know I had security footage from the day she barged into my office, clearly stating, "We consulted lawyers. We know he's not on any paperwork, but we'll make it a PR nightmare." My legal team submitted that to the court. Game over. Final day, judgment. The judge didn't even take long. He dismissed the case entirely. Then he did something that shocked even me. He ordered Ryan and Dana to pay my legal fees, nearly $600,000, and publicly rebuked them for attempting to manipulate the court through lies and media pressure. Ryan slumped in his seat. Dana stormed out. And me? I walked out with my head held high, my business untarnished, and my pride intact. But this story doesn't end there. Because 3 months later, I got a letter from Ryan. Handwritten. "I'm sorry. Dana's gone. She left once the money didn't come through. I was bitter. Watching you succeed without me. I messed up." I didn't respond. Some people aren't meant to be part of your empire. They're just meant to remind you why you built it strong enough to stand alone. 3 months had passed since the court case ended and Ryan's handwritten apology arrived. I didn't reply. I didn't need closure. I had moved on, not just emotionally, but mentally and spiritually. I'd turned that page. Business was booming. My company had just secured a new partnership deal worth $120 million. Investors were happy. My employees were thriving. And I had finally taken a well-deserved week off to travel to the Maldives. Life was peaceful again, or so I thought, until Dana showed up at my home. Yes, my home. I had just come back from a morning jog, sweaty and exhausted, when I saw her standing at my front gate. Designer sunglasses, flawless makeup, heels on a gravel driveway. She looked like she hadn't learned a single thing. I walked up slowly, eyeing her with full awareness of who she was and what she had done. "What are you doing here?" I asked, not even trying to hide the coldness in my voice. She removed her sunglasses and said, I just want to talk." "No," I replied. "You wanted to destroy me. You had your chance. You dragged me through court, lied to the media, and you lost. We're done here." "I was wrong," she said quietly. I thought I was helping Ryan, but he was lying to both of us. That caught my attention. "I found out," she continued, "that he never actually told me about the post-nup agreement. He made it seem like you two built the company together. I only realized after the trial that he manipulated everything. He just wanted revenge because you moved on." I stayed silent. She reached into her bag and handed me a folder. "These are screenshots and printed emails between Ryan and some lawyer friend of his. He planned the whole lawsuit before I even knew you had money. I thought it would make it right if I gave these to you." I flipped through the documents. It was clear. Ryan had orchestrated the entire thing, promising Dana they'd cash out, go on vacations, and buy properties. She was just a pawn. He never even loved her. "I lost everything," she said, her voice trembling. "The condo, the car, he put all under his name. I'm broke, and he left me. You expect me to feel bad?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "No," she whispered. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. And maybe there's a job. Anything. I need to start over." That hit me like a slap. I had no words. A part of me wanted to slam the gate in her face. Another part? Pity. And maybe curiosity. Why not go to someone else? I asked, "Because you're the only person who never lied to me, who never pretended, and because I've seen how you run your company. You're fair and smart." I told her I'd think about it. She left without a word more, and I sat on my porch, folder in hand, heart heavy with irony. Against every warning my inner voice screamed. I called Dana in for an interview. Not a favor, not charity, but to see if she had anything to offer. To my surprise, she'd taken online business courses during her relationship with Ryan. She knew how to run back-end operations, organize team workflows, and spot inefficiencies in vendor contracts. She wasn't brilliant, but she was trying. After serious deliberation, I offered her a probationary position under one condition. You don't speak about Ryan. Ever. You don't seek attention. And if you lie once, you're gone. She accepted with tears in her eyes. Dana became one of the most efficient mid-level managers I had. She was respectful, disciplined, and stayed out of office politics. And Ryan? The last I heard, he was living in his brother's basement, begging for work from startups who Googled his name and ghosted him immediately. Life, it turns out, is poetic. I had built an empire brick by brick, with my hands blistered from failure and my heart hardened from betrayal. They tried to rob me of it, not knowing I was the architect, the builder, and the protector. And now, the woman who tried to take it all stood humbly in the building's break room, refilling her coffee and typing out reports, while I looked on from the corner office she once barged into, demanding a slice of my legacy. Funny how life works. But I wasn't bitter. I didn't seek revenge. I let the truth do the punishing. Because sometimes the best revenge is surviving everything they try to destroy you with. It had been a full year since the courtroom drama, since Dana's unexpected return, and since Ryan had disappeared into oblivion. My company was stronger than ever. We had hit a $650 million valuation, expanded into Europe, and launched a sustainability initiative that made headlines. And Dana? She had stayed in her lane, professional, quiet, and surprisingly dependable. She never spoke of Ryan again, never sought personal conversations, and never asked for more than what she had earned. I started to believe she had truly changed. But then the twist came. It was a rainy Thursday. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my head of HR, Clara, knocked gently and said, "Do you have a moment? It's about Dana." My stomach turned. Clara shut the door behind her and handed me an envelope. "An anonymous tip," she said. "We verified it." Inside were screenshots of emails and text threads. Dana, communicating with Ryan. They'd been in contact for months. Secret messages, coded phrases, discussions about my new project rollouts. Dana had been leaking internal information to Ryan, who had been trying to build a rival company behind the scenes. They planned to poach 2 of my top engineers. They even discussed getting access to vendor pricing to undercut our next launch. I stared at the papers, numb with betrayal. Again. But this time, I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I simply said, "Bring her in." Dana walked into my office like any other day, clipboard in hand, professional smile, until she saw Clara standing beside me. I slid the folder across the table. "Want to explain?" Her face went pale. She didn't touch the folder. She knew what was in it. She stammered. "I can explain." "I don't need an explanation," I interrupted. "I gave you a second chance. I trusted you, and you sold me out for him?" Tears filled her eyes. "He said he changed, that he was broke and needed help. I didn't think." "You didn't think." I snapped. "You plotted. You leaked sensitive information. And the only reason I found out was because one of your so-called targets reported the poaching attempt." I leaned forward. "You're done. Fired. And I'm pressing charges." Dana collapsed into the chair. "Please don't do this. I'll lose everything." I stood up, steel in my voice. "That's not my problem anymore." Dana was escorted out of the building. I filed a formal report and worked with legal counsel to build a case. My team cut off every access she had, ran a full security audit, and doubled our data protections. Ryan's so-called startup crumbled before it even launched, once vendors and potential hires learned of his underhanded tactics. But I wasn't finished. I had one more move that I stood on stage at the Women in Power Summit, receiving an award for innovation and resilience in business. Cameras flashed. Reporters jotted notes. The spotlight was on me, not because of the scandal, but because of how I'd handled it. "Let me say this," I told the crowd. "Success isn't about what you build. It's about how you protect it when everyone around you tries to tear it down." After the speech, I walked off stage and into a sea of applause. I spotted an unfamiliar face in the back. Ryan. He looked small, worn down, alone. He didn't approach. Just watched as I shook hands, took photos, and owned the space he once tried to steal. And that's when it hit me. He hadn't come to ruin anything. He came to witness what he could never have. They barged into my life demanding a share of something they never lifted a finger to build. They played dirty, thinking I'd crumble. But they forgot I wasn't just a woman running a business. I was a survivor, a strategist, a builder of empires. And I didn't need revenge. I had something far better. Victory, peace, and the unshakable knowledge that I was, and always would be, untouchable.